Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and high. Whoop, Mr. Motorama coffee.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. Get ready, the show's about to begin.
Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast. This is episode 131, if you're keeping track from the beginning, or it is season 3, episode 27. And if this is your first time joining the show in your ear holes and possibly in your eye holes, I am the incredible Jeff. And I'd love it if you took a second, followed the show on social media. You can find us at Fueled by Deathcast across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And also, if you're just listening to this show on your favorite podcast streamer, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Music, iHeartRadio, or Stitcher, you can also watch this very show in full video and video clips on the Death Wish Coffee Company YouTube page. And as with the YouTube page, as well with iTunes and Spotify and the like, if you could take a second and subscribe to Fueled by Deathcast, it always helps the visibility of this show. And if you like what you're listening to or watching, please leave a review on any of those platforms. Because again, it just helps us out. And this show would be nothing without the voice of death himself, Brock Powell. Brock is the voice actor on this show and 1,000 voices out there in the world. You can follow his journey through the industry that is voice acting at brockvox.com. You can also follow him at brockvox across all social media. We love Brock to death. He does so much amazing stuff for this show and everything we do here at Fueled by Deathcast, as well as all of the cool stuff he gets to do all the time in the voice acting industry.
Secret code unlocked. Discount of death.
You heard Brock right there. As a fan of this very podcast, Fueled by Deathcast, you get a special discount code just for listening and watching. Anytime you go on over to deathwishcoffee.com, you can use the code discount of Jeff. All one word, discount of Jeff will get you 12% off of your order at deathwishcoffee.com. Today, tomorrow, whenever you make an order, you can get our coffee, you can get our merchandise. So much amazing stuff. 12% off. Discount of Jeff. Really excited to get into this episode, and I want to take a second again to say if you're just listening or watching this episode of Fueled by Deathcast, I get to do a lot of fun stuff here at Fueled by Deathcast, and I hope you get to see it all. Not only every single Thursday does the main episode of Fueled by Deathcast come out, where we have a special guest and I ask them what they do, why they do it, and what fuels them to do it. I also come out with a science episode every Sunday, found exactly the same place wherever Fueled by Deathcast is found, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music, iHeartRadio, or on YouTube. Our science segment, I get to talk about new and cool stuff happening in science every single week. More often than not, it's something to do with space, because I love space and space exploration, so much so that I've helped Death Wish Coffee go to space not once, but soon to be twice, and we're going to be talking a lot more about that on upcoming episodes as well. And every single Wednesday, if you follow Death Wish Coffee on Facebook, you can tune in live as I go live with the mother of content, Shannon Sweeney, and we talk about all sorts of cool stuff happening with Death Wish Coffee, and also a lot more fun every single week on Death Wish Coffee Company's Facebook page, Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in for the very live, the very fun, Fueled by Death show. Now, this week, I have a very special guest, the CEO of a company that you might not have ever heard of called Skubana. His name is Chad Rubin. Chad actually started out in the business world with a vacuum cleaner company. And he decided to move that idea from selling physical vacuum cleaners to obviously selling online, as online sales and internet e-commerce was starting to gain traction, a handful of years ago. Well, sometimes one idea leads to another. And with that idea of his vacuum cleaner company, which started to take off, he started to realize that logistics, inventory management, inventory fulfillment, all of these things that he needed for that e-commerce company, he couldn't find a good platform to help him fulfill those orders, to keep those logistics running, and all of the things he needed for a growing e-commerce company. So he created one. He created Skubana. And the story of Skubana is interesting for anyone looking to get into the e-commerce industry, but also starting out with a business idea on their own. So for entrepreneurs, for business moguls out there, for people just curious about, if I have an idea, how do I make it a reality? Chad has some incredible insight and some inspiring conversation of how exactly to get into that. So mugs up this week for the CEO of Skubana, Chad Rubin.
The Fueled by Death guest.
I really want to start kind of at the beginning of Skubana. Skubana was born out of a necessity you had, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I come from the e-commerce world for the past decade.
So walk me through that a little bit. I know you started e-commerce. You started a company, correct me if I'm wrong, it was called Crucial Vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
What was that
Correct.
all about? Was that literally a vacuum company?
Yeah, so my parents owned a vacuum store. So think back to if you've ever been into a vacuum store.
Oh, yeah.
My parents had a vacuum store and Walmart opened up right next door. So growing up, we would have to pinch pennies together to pay the bills or to pay the mortgage. And I was like, I never want to be an entrepreneur and I never want to be in the vacuum industry. And sure enough, right, I'm an entrepreneur and in the vacuum industry.
You failed on both accounts.
Exactly. So I actually I was first generation college grad, and I went on to Wall Street, and I ended up covering internet stocks. So advising hedge funds and institutional investors to buy, sell, or short internet stocks.
Oh, wow.
And I noticed that there was this thing called Amazon that was growing, and they built this marketplace, and I started helping my parents sell their wares on Amazon across with many other channels in e-commerce.
Wow. And that was pretty much at the tail end of the internet boom there, right? Early 2000s you were doing that?
I got laid off Friday the 13th, 2009, but I had started doing that in 2007, kind of moonlighting, and then finally survived 3 head cuts, was laid off, and started helping my parents full time. Sure enough, my father passes away, and I started my own direct-to-consumer company where we started manufacturing our own home appliance parts and accessories and selling them direct-to-consumer.
So you kind of fell into entrepreneurship without ever even looking towards that, but you fell into it and you went both feet forward, which is commendable. But then you get to a point where your company now that you're working for scaled beyond your means, correct?
So you're talking about the e-commerce business or Skubana?
E-commerce, just before you started to come into Skubana.
Yeah, I mean, it was scaling. I had 35 employees, and you guys are well aware of some of the pain points that I struggled with. And we essentially started eating in our own restaurant. We started dog fooding and building the software for my own needs, but also building it for many other large e-commerce brands' needs that were ripe and taking over these incumbents, very similar to Death Wish Coffee.
Incredible. So you're actually creating the groundwork for Skubana without ever it wasn't like you set out and you're like, okay, I've been doing this company for a while and now I'm going to start this other venture. You just literally did it out of necessity and were building those things, those pieces in your existing company, correct? Before you ever even started Skubana?
Yeah, no, you know what? We were struggling with trying to unify our business in one place that allowed us to scale. I tried every software on the low end. There's a lot of higher end softwares that would have taken us a long time to deploy. And I met serendipitously my business partner, DJ Kunovac, and it was introduced through a friend of mine from college. Long story short, he came, he saw the problem, and we started to work on that problem. But we actually always had the idea that we wanted to use the software for many other people beyond my own needs.
So interesting. Now, for our listeners and viewers at home who might not be in the entrepreneurial space or the e-commerce space, what is the layman pitch for Skubana from you?
Layman pitch is it's a back-end operations software to run and automate your business.
Right. And that's like, your warehouse, your logistics, all of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So some people listening, they're powered by coffee. Well, Skubana powers large brands and retailers to run their business all in one place.
And that seems like such a needed thing in this industry. Was it hard from the get-go? Like, you come up with this idea, you start implementing this, and is it hard to get businesses to want to use your product in the very early stages?
So as long as I'm always under the impression that if you solve a problem, people will come to you. In other words, instead of trying to find customers, we started building an audience. And people started coming to us. I would be talking about a lot of the challenges that e-commerce merchants are facing, and people would just be like, oh, wait, this guy has something really smart to add value into my life with. Yeah, let me check out Skubana because I have those same pain points.
Incredible. So you're creating a solution to an existing problem with this brand new venture, Skubana. But as anybody knows, starting a new business, starting a new idea always has its own obstacles. What were some of the obstacles early on with Skubana that you had to kind of navigate through?
Yeah, I would say the first obstacle is I wasn't aware of how big of a software this is going to be. So I just wanted it to be an inventory app. And DJ, my business partner, he was like, no, you need to be a unification platform, everything. So order management, inventory, purchase orders, and profits. So the scale and the complexity increased significantly since when we first started the company. And then on top of that, the other piece I think that's very important to note is in e-commerce, you buy low, you sell high.
Okay.
In software, you have to build, and then bring it to market and continue to build through the life cycle of your product. Like your product is a living, breathing thing that you constantly have to maintain and also to grow. So software is a very different beast than a traditional product business.
Interesting. Now, you said early on you were consulting for the internet boom on the stock market, and you've been in companies that are e-commerce and handle a lot with software. Do you have a background in software creation, or are you drawn to like the tech side of things? Are you a techie?
I think the reason why I was really interested in Skubana is that we're only here for a very short time on this planet. And you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself to spend time on things that really challenge you, and that also can have the biggest outcome for yourself along with your family. And so for me, I saw Skubana as a challenge I wanted to solve. So I'm not a software guy. For me, I just like to build things. I like to see them grow. So I'm a gardener, right? I like to plant seeds. I like to water things and watch them develop and grow, and that's exactly what we're doing at Skubana. And by the way, my e-commerce business still is running today. It's all automated with Skubana, and we only have one employee.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And how big has Skubana now grown? How many employees do you have for this company?
Yeah. So right now we're in New York City. We have 30 people, and we're about to double the org. So we're about to go to 60.
Whoa! Wow,
Yep.
That's exciting. And just so I got my timeline right, how long has Skubana been viable? Has it been a business?
Yeah, so we've been pretty much live for 3.5 years.
Wow.
We started building before for another 1.5 to 2 years, building what we call a minimum viable product, just enough to get some traction to launch. And now we are just about to complete a fundraise, which we haven't publicly announced yet, that will give us the capital to grow this thing beyond anything I could fathom.
Wow, that's really exciting. Again, back on the tech side of it, you guys are working on software that will help a company logistically, fulfill their orders, get their company to the space that it needs to get, to focus on the right things, like you said.
Yeah.
Where do you see the future of this company going, of Skubana? Because it seems like it exists in that ever-changing software space? It seems like for someone like me who knows very little about software, I break more computers than I actually know how they work. And it seems like you are on the forefront of tech that is constantly changing, constantly being integrated. Is that is that a hurdle for your company, and where do you see it going in the next few years?
Yeah, so the reason why the tech needs to change so much is that commerce is changing so much. So like what you know about commerce, even just e-commerce in general, expires after 3 to 6 months. Like things are moving so quickly. If you think back to the early 2000s and how people used to shop to now, and what's going to happen over the course of the next decade, we constantly have to be on the cusp of the changing environment and the changing landscape. So right now, only 10% of revenue of sales come from e-commerce, and 90% is still brick and mortar. Those are going to really start to evolve. But I would say like most people, even with Death Wish, right, when they're buying Death Wish coffee online, when they hit the checkout, they don't really think about anything until it hits their door.
Right.
So between checkout and hitting your door, think about all logistics, all the things that have to happen to get that order packed, routed, orchestrated, managing your inventory if you're selling across multiple different channels. And then if you run out of coffee beans, you have to reorder them. And then you have to know, am I making money on these coffee beans across every channel and across every warehouse? So it is a beast to manage. And Skubana starts to really thrive on complexity the more of a beast that's created. Wow. The more complexity you have, the more we thrive.
Very cool. Is it hard to constantly update the tech for what you guys do at Skubana when, let's say, there is so much other software involved in e-commerce? You know, Amazon is always changing their platform or those types of things. Is it hard to kind of be at the same level as everything else?
Yeah, I mean, so the lucky thing is I picked the right software partner to partner with. And the way that we've developed our software, we can essentially deploy code. In other words, we can update our code 15 to 20 times a day, and the user will never know.
Wow.
So most of like the old school software companies were built before there was this thing called cloud computing. And so they would have to do patch releases every quarter to send updates. They couldn't move with agility and be nimble the way that we can. And so I think that we leverage that to our advantage where we can move incredibly quickly and build functionality and features that are more robust than other software platforms that are out today.
Wow. It blows my mind sometimes to think about like a space that you're in because, you know, it's so integral and so vital, yet it's ever changing. It's like as we're having this conversation, there is new software being created immediately, you know, like that you have to be at the forefront of. Is that daunting at all? It
is daunting. And I think with every like milestone that we accomplish internally here, what do they say? New levels is new devils. And so as we launch and get to new heights in our company, there's more things that we need to deal with that are more complex and more challenging.
Wow. So back to you personally, Chad, like as you said, you kind of fell into being an entrepreneur. It was something that you never wanted to be, and you failed at that, and you failed wonderfully. You failed upward, and you became an entrepreneur. Yeah. Now you're CEO of Skubana and still running your other company. What is maybe something that you've learned as an entrepreneur that is like insightful that you never thought you would have learned?
I would say like one of the things, at least that I need to still constantly work on and overcome, is not to take anything personally, right? I think that's something that Skubana is my baby. Mm-hmm. And as things change and we're dealing with humans at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all animals, and trying to relate to these other animals and control them, and not to control them, but essentially to manage expectations internally is something that actually is a nonstop process. And I think it's probably one of the most important things that I do on a daily basis is like coordinate with my team and make sure they're happy and make sure that everything's running smooth. But if I had to like look back and see what has been like a strength of mine through the entrepreneurial journey, I would probably have to say just like constantly being like hit and persisting through that, like constantly going through things, whether it's chaos or hitting lows, just like the lows to be super low and the highs to be super high, and having persistence and breaking through those walls.
Very cool. Very cool. So on that same thought then, through everything that Skubana has achieved, what has been maybe the most surprising thing that has happened with this company? Something that maybe that you never thought you'd kind of get to?
Well, I mean, I would say like something recently. Well, first of all, we relocated everyone to New York City. So the office you see behind me is everybody in New York. We used to have two separate offices. We had one in New Jersey, one in New York. So I never thought that we would all be in the same place in New York City. And you can imagine we're in Chelsea. It's quite expensive to have an office here.
Yeah.
Nothing's outsourced. Everything is literally in New York. The second thing is that one of the things that DJ and I, maybe even sometimes to our detriment, we decided very early on to be a bootstrap company. In other words, we would pour our sweat, our heart, and our tears into this thing, but we wanted to maintain control, and we also wanted to do it without taking capital from other people. And as we've moved upstream and as we've added more clients to our platform, especially higher end clients and brands and retailers, we've moved upstream, and I think we need to get the right resources to move upstream to support those clients. And therefore, we are just about to announce this capital raise, which took me, I locked myself in a room for a quarter, for 3 months, to find the right investors for this business that align with our values.
Wow. That's an incredible thing to talk about, too, because it seems like you are doing something for the good of your company, but it's completely out of your comfort zone. Is that kind of correct?
Completely.
Is that a hurdle personally for you? Like, do you feel good about it? Do you feel like you're growing, or is that still something that you're wrestling with?
No, I mean, I feel like we made the decision, we committed to it, and that's one of the things that we do internally is if we make a decision, we commit to it, even if there's not everyone is fully on board, we all are committed to it. So the thing is, like, if you think about your life, or at least when I think about my life, all of the gains that I've made, the personal gains, were made when I was not comfortable. So, yeah, it's. I think we grow through discomfort.
Yeah. And
sure, I'm taking myself out of my comfort zone, but it's gonna be an incredible journey for sure.
That's very inspiring. And on that note, I kind of want to ask you the question we get to all the time. Through everything that you've been through, again, getting into something you didn't ever want to get into, getting into business, getting into entrepreneurship, starting this company, Skubana, and all the success you've seen over the last 3.5 years, what fuels you to keep going? What fuels you to keep, getting up every day and testing your comfort zone and striving to move forward?
Mm-hmm. I would say, well, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up and we had to essentially find pennies within couch cushions to pay the bills. Like we would be in line at the grocery store, and my mom would have 20 different credit cards that she would try to use. And with each decline, she would try a different card. So one of the reasons why I chose finance or why I chose to go to college was to essentially to level up, to move on from the place historically that my family has been in, and to build a family of my own. So I would say one of them is essentially tearing off the rearview mirror and making sure I'm never in that place again.
Wow, very cool. Very inspiring. And I mean, like, you are the embodiment of the American dream. I mean, that is what that is like you want to better yourself and your life and the people around you so, you can get to that next level. I like that terminology too. For someone who might be just wanting to start their idea, to start their business, to get out there into the entrepreneurial, space that's out there now, would you have any advice for them?
Yeah. So I think we all walk through life and we have these moments of like, why does it have to be this way? And when you ask yourself, why does it have to be this way? That's where you can actually find problems that you can solve for. So it could be maybe that you're in the shower and you constantly think of good ideas in the shower, but you have nothing to write it on. So like a waterproof board to write your notes on in the morning. I'm just giving you an example,
yeah.
Right? So solving problems, and the only way to do that is have relatable problems in your life that you've walked through, and so that you can take those problems and bring them to reality and try to solve for those.
Wow, very, very good. You are an incredible problem solver. That it seems like you really get off on finding a problem and solving it, and that's very inspiring. But I do want to end up here. I just want to go on the other side of it. We all go to our jobs. We all, if we're lucky enough to love our job and to be invigorated by what we get to do at our job. But what gets you going outside of your job? What hobby or something maybe somebody wouldn't know about you that outside of the business sense? What do you like to do to relax? Maybe.
So I think when I do hobbies, I get really, really into them. So and I get I'm very into the art of brewing coffee, or I'm very into coffee. I'm very into let's just say I like to smoke hookah for fun.
Yeah.
At my house, I've gotten very deep into that. I like to read. I certainly like to travel, as we were talking about before the show got started. I'm about to take a very big extensive travel vacation with my wife because we're having our child.
That's so awesome.
And like recently, I would say 2 weeks ago for fun, I took freestyle lessons.
Like dance or
no, like freestyle, like hip hop, improv, freestyle,
like rap. That's great.
Yes,
that's really cool.
It was amazing. I like to like do these things and like get myself out of my comfort zone and just like get out of that frontal cortex and just get into other parts of my body.
Oh, that's so rad. Do you think you're going to continue with your freestyle lessons?
I am, actually.
Yes, I can't wait for your first album.
Probably not an album, but it certainly is fun.
Oh, that's awesome. And I got to ask for, our listeners and viewers out there too. You did mention that you love to brew coffee and you kind of get off, that's like a hobby of yours. What's your brewing method? What do you really enjoy about brewing coffee? Let's talk a coffee a little bit here.
Yeah. So first of all, I love a great espresso, but I also in the morning, like this morning, I did a French press cold brew.
Ooh.
And one of the things, especially in the summer, since I have a garden, that's one of the things I also like to do is I like to put some mint in it and let that marinate over the course of the evening. And then I wake up and you have this like natural tasting coffee with mint. It's like a cocoa and mint together. It's fantastic.
Whoa, what a great idea. I'm going to steal that idea. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's super tasty. So I like to do that in the summer. In the winter, typically I just like a pour over.
Yeah.
So I'll use a Kalita pour over, and it's just right. I do all my grinding right on the spot, and I like to get the essence of the oils in my cup. I have a Death Wish cup that I love brewing with. It's like the perfect size.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, coffee. It's so funny. Coffee culture has become just that. It is a culture. It is this experience. And I love talking about it with people because, like you said, like in the morning, like it becomes this ritual, like that like you kind of put into your day because so much of your day just becomes autopilot. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you put your clothes on, you grab your keys, you get out the door. You don't have to think about any of that stuff, but it's nice to take a minute and to brew coffee and that kind of stuff. That's really, really fun. Chad, it was incredible talking to you. It was very, very inspiring. I can't wait to see where the rest of your journey takes you. And for our listeners and viewers, obviously you can follow Skubana. But for you personally, is there a way to follow your personal journey? Do you social media at all? Is there anything that you'd want to plug? Yeah,
first of all, I want to just thank you for taking the time to chat with me. This was awesome. And if you want to check out what I'm up to, you can check out a book I wrote, which of course it's on Amazon. It's called Cheaper, Easier, Direct.
Perfect.
You can email me at chad@skubana.com if you want to talk coffee or if you want to talk software or even just entrepreneurship. And yeah, looking forward.
Excellent. Okay, so I gotta ask them before we wrap up. Writing a book, what was that like? Was that out of your comfort zone?
Yes, it was. And I found a really good writer to co-author it with me. And recently, I've been working on the next book. So writing the book was amazing. It got me some great publicity and press, but also most importantly, it's all about reciprocity and I'm all about giving. And the book just opens up everything I've done to build my business.
That's excellent. And I guess, the other question that I asked you earlier about Skubana, I want to kind of put towards writing a book. Is there anything you learned from writing the book that surprised you or some sort of something that maybe like happened from writing that book that you weren't prepared for?
So I got an interview with NPR, which was amazing.
Awesome.
I got a lot of speaking gigs. So all of that was unexpected. For me, it was all about, I wanted to create content and knowledge. And when I go to these conferences, these e-commerce or commerce conferences, instead of giving out a cozy, right? Or a phone holder for your cell phone.
Right.
I wanted to give out something that like really people can take with them and they can read it and they can educate themselves and it's just going to add a ton of value to their lives. And that has been amazing because I get emails from people because I put my email in the book and people write me all the time being like, I'm so thankful to have found this book. It was such an inspiration. I've used your same playbook and I'm creating my own business now. And so getting those kinds of emails on a daily basis is also a great driving force.
That's so cool. And I will most definitely put links to that book in this episode as well. Once again, Chet, thank you so much for talking with me today. It truly was inspiring.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.